Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. You know how this works? We take everything you've been exploring, all those notes and articles, and really get to the good stuff.
We're diving deep into that source material.
Exactly. And today we're tackling Atomic Habits by James Clear.
This is not your typical self-help book.
Oh, definitely not. This one's packed with real science and insightful stories. Get ready for some serious aha moments as we uncover the secrets behind building habits that actually last.
What I find really interesting about this book is that it's not just some theory, Clear's own life, it really shows how powerful these small changes can be.
Wait, really? What do you mean?
So imagine this. Clear's in high school, he's at the top of his game, and then bam, this freak accident.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he ends up with some serious facial fractures.
Wow.
It took him 8 months before he would even drive again. Talk about a setback.
That's intense.
Yeah.
So how does this tie into Atomic Habits?
That experience was a turning point. It made him realize that even the smallest actions, if you do them consistently, can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
He used that to rebuild his own life and
Ah.
ultimately to write this book. It's all about those tiny gains adding up to something incredible. And that's what we're diving into today.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. So many self-help books out there promise these quick fixes, but this one feels different. It's not just about setting goals. It feels like something deeper, right?
Absolutely. This book goes way beyond those simple habit hacks. It digs into this fascinating idea of identity-based change. The idea that your habits actually shape who you are and the other way around, too.
So it's like, if I see myself as a fit person, I'm more likely to work out and eat healthy because that's part of my identity.
Exactly. It creates this feedback loop. Your habits reinforce your identity, and then your identity influences your habits. The book argues that the real change, the lasting change, comes from changing who you believe you are, becoming the type of person who embodies those habits instead of just chasing some specific outcome.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not about forcing myself to go to the gym. It's about becoming someone who values fitness and makes it part of their lifestyle. But how do we actually do that? How do we change, especially those really ingrained habits?
Well, Clear breaks it down into a really clear framework. He calls them the 4 stages of habit formation: cue, craving, response, and reward.
I love a good framework. Okay, so let's break it down. What exactly is a cue when we're talking about habits?
Think of a cue like a trigger. It's a piece of information that predicts a reward.
Mhm.
For our ancestors, it was stuff like seeing a watering hole or a fruit tree.
Right.
Those were cues that meant survival. Right. Food and water.
Right. We're hardwired to respond to those basic needs.
Exactly.
But it's a bit different now, isn't it? I mean, our cues in the modern world, they're not quite the same, are they?
Definitely not. Now we're chasing these more secondary rewards like money or praise, that feeling you get when you check something off your to-do list.
Yeah, those external validations. So we're talking like those basic survival cues. They've evolved into these abstract things we crave.
Mm.
Okay, I'm with you so far. But what's next? Where does the craving come in?
The craving, that's like the engine behind the whole thing, the motivation. Without it, no action, right?
Right. We've got to want it.
Exactly. It's really just your brain wanting to change its own state,
Okay, so like, let's say you see a big, delicious piece of cake.
Okay.
That's your cue. Then the craving, that's that desire for the sugar rush, that satisfaction.
Exactly. You crave that good feeling, that change, and then what?
Well, then you take a bite. That's the
It's
response.
about it. The
Yeah.
actual habit is the response, the thought or action. But here's the thing. If it's too difficult, you're less likely to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Like if that cake was locked in a vault, lasers, a moat, the whole shebang,
Mhm.
I might reconsider actually eating it.
Exactly. And finally, we reach the reward, the whole point, right? The pleasure, the satisfaction, that's what your brain's after.
Makes sense.
The stronger that reward,
Yeah.
the more likely you'll be to do it again. It's those feel-good chemicals. Your brain is all about them.
So it's like this loop. The reward makes the habit stronger.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm loving this framework. It's really clear. But what I really love is that Clear actually gives us the tools to use this.
Exactly. And that's where his 4 laws of behavior change come in. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But let's break those down. How do you make it obvious exactly?
Okay, think about this. Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you went in there?
Oh, all the time.
That's your brain, autopilot, right? Clear uses this example of Japanese railway workers. They avoid mistakes by pointing and calling out potential hazards.
They're bringing those subconscious actions to the front of their minds.
Yes. Making the unconscious conscious. That's what we need to do with our habits. You can't change what you aren't aware of.
It's so true. Out of sight, out of mind. Okay, so we're aware of our habits, but how do we make them more appealing?
Make it attractive. Remember, we're wired for those rewards, but we're also social creatures. We copy habits, especially from people we look up to, people we like.
Ah, so like if all my friends suddenly become marathon runners, I might be more likely to dust off my sneakers.
Exactly. And Clear talks about this study. It's fascinating. Baby birds hardwired to peck at red dots.
Wait, seriously, tell me more about these peckish birds.
It's a classic experiment, shows how strong cravings can be, even for things that don't logically make sense. These birds, they'd rather peck at a red dot than eat. Their brains are wired that way.
Wow, that's kind of wild when you think about it. But how does that apply to us humans trying to, you know, build good habits?
Well, think about it. The world is full of these red dots now. The food industry, they know what they're doing. Sugar, salt, fat, they're everywhere, triggering those cravings.
It's like we're bombarded by these tempting red dots constantly. Okay, so be aware of those triggers, surround ourselves with good influences. But what about when we know what's good for us, but it's still hard to get started?
Make it easy. Clear compares building habits to those efficient Japanese manufacturers, remember them. Redesign their workspaces to cut out wasted motion.
So it's all about making it easy to start,
Yeah,
right? Lowering the bar, so to speak.
exactly. The 2-minute rule. Break down your habit into something so easy it only takes 2 minutes. Don't try to run a marathon on day one. Just put on your running shoes.
I like it. Small steps, big changes. But what about staying motivated over time? That's the real challenge.
That's where make it satisfying comes in. We talked about how our brains crave those rewards. Well, our brains, they evolved in a world of instant gratification. You see fruit, you eat it, you're satisfied. But now, we live in a delayed return world.
We do. We work hard now for things that might not pay off for weeks, months, years even.
Exactly. That's why it's easy to get pulled in by instant gratification, even if it's not good for us in the long run. So the question is, how do we close that gap? Make those long-term rewards feel more immediate.
So we're fighting our own brains here,
Yeah.
trying to bridge that gap between like wanting it now and working towards those bigger goals.
That's it. And Clear suggests this great strategy tag on a little immediate pleasure to those good habits. Make the long-term payoff feel a little closer, you know? Like pair your workout with your favorite podcast, or how about a delicious, healthy meal after a productive day?
Okay, yeah, I get it. We're kind of hacking the reward system, right?
Exactly.
Making those good habits feel a bit more, well, immediately gratifying. But we've talked about the how-to, the nuts and bolts. But what about the mental game? Clear mentions this Goldilocks rule.
Oh, it's crucial. Remember that perfect bowl of porridge?
Just right.
Our motivation works the same way. That's the Goldilocks rule. We're most motivated when we're working on things that are just a bit beyond what we can do right now. Not too easy, not too hard.
Makes sense. Too easy, we get bored. Too hard, forget it, right?
Exactly. And that's where breaking down those goals into smaller steps comes in. Celebrate those little wins. Keeps you going, you know?
This is where I think a lot of us struggle, myself included. Self-discipline. You set these big goals, and then if you don't see results right away, it's easy to get discouraged. Any advice from Clear on staying on track when willpower just isn't enough?
He's got you covered. He talks about the power of accountability. Uses this amazing example, Roger Fisher, the guy who came up with a system to prevent, get this, nuclear war during the Cold War.
Now, those are some high stakes. What does that have to do with, like, me wanting to go to the gym more?
Well, Fisher's big insight. Good intentions, they aren't enough. We need systems, things to keep us accountable.
Okay, so how do we apply that to, say, finally cleaning out that closet? Or, yeah, exercising more?
Create those systems for yourself. An accountability partner, someone to cheer you on. Or take it up a notch, a habit contract. Clear tells this story about a guy used a habit contract to lose weight, put money on the line.
Wow, okay, now that's motivation.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot: identity-based change, those 4 stages, the laws of behavior change, the Goldilocks rule, even accountability.
Yeah.
As we wrap up our deep dive here, what's your biggest takeaway from Atomic Habits?
You know, for me, it's this. Building better habits, breaking bad ones, it's not about being some kind of superhuman with endless willpower. It's about understanding how our minds work and using that, you know, working with ourselves, not against ourselves.
It's like Clear gave us the instruction manual. We can be the architects of our own habits, which ultimately shapes our lives.
Totally. And he reminds us it's a journey. There will be setbacks, times when it feels like nothing's happening, but the key is to learn from it all and keep moving.
Embracing the journey, becoming a lifelong learner. Right?
Yes. And here's one last nugget from Clear that really stuck with me. Ready? Play a game where the odds are in your favor. Focus on those habits that play to your strength, the things you naturally enjoy.
It's like finding your niche, not about forcing yourself to be someone you're not. It's about being the best version of yourself.
Exactly. And remember, fall in love with the process. Those small, consistent actions, they add up. Keep experimenting, keep learning, and keep building those atomic habits. They can truly transform your life.
That's a fantastic note to end on. You don't have to be perfect, just keep making progress. And if you stumble, that's okay. Just get back up and keep building those atomic habits. Till next time on The Deep Dive, happy habit building, everyone.